As a Mizrahi, he slayed executive realness. As a LaCroix, he produced the most sought-after ball DVDs in history and inspired the legendary Sneaker vs. Sneaker category. Then, as a Lanvin, he created Ballroom's original Blog Talk radio show. Now he's doing it again with his all-new show, The Roundtable with Tom Blumenthal, dishing all the dirt in his first ever exclusive interview is the legendary, up-and-coming icon, Prince of Atlanta, and co-founding father, Vito Tisci.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So this is like full circle moment right here, because as I said, I remember, do you remember, first of all, when we first met and where it was?
Was it at Trax?
It was at Trax. It sure was. Trax in Atlanta on Lucky Street, the legendary Trax.
Legendary.
You were in there doing what you do, you know, bopping around, being up under grown people when you should have been home probably.
Studying for school the next day, yes.
Right, yeah. How old were you then, Vito?
I was 17.
What?
I was about to graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm. And sneaking in the gay club.
Whew. Story of my life, sneaking in the gay club.
Wow, so it's literally been over 20 years.
Yes, it has. I'm 37 now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have known each other for 20 years. Well, I'm so glad that you agreed to do this one-on-one exclusive sit-down interview.
And to kick things off, Vito spills the tea on his very first ballroom family.
The very first house I joined was Mizrahi.
Get out. That was my first house.
Yeah. That was my very first house. You know, I was seeing Andre on Apollo. He had introduced me into the club. You know, he introduced himself into me in the club because, of course, I was hanging out with some popular people at the time who were ball parents. I didn't really know what ballroom was. And he was like, oh, you're cute. You're young. You should walk schoolboy. And I'm like, schoolboy realness? He's like, yeah, you know, it's a category at a ball, da, 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 da.
Yeah. So, was that the first category, schoolboy realness?
Schoolboy realness was my first.
Get out of here. Yeah. Now the girls are going to gag when they hear you say that.
For the most part, I think a lot of people kind of know, well, mostly Atlanta people know, because I only walked 2 balls. The first one, booty chopped pretty much all of us in the line. And then the second ball I walked, I did not win. The third one I walked, I did win. Mm-hmm. But schoolboy was just a little boring for me, you know, like not saying that the category is a boring category, because there are a lot of people like Mario Chanel, rest his soul, but Marlon Milan,
there was so much
Milan,
more in
that
you,
came in to like put more. Yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, it was more in you to bubble out, and so that's I think why you kind of quickly grew out of that. But how did you know you had this bug inside you that you just want to let out, to be free and let this Vogue Fam character come out?
Well, you know, a lot of people don't know, but I was the drum major in my high school marching band. So like music and just dance is a part of me, like it is who I am. So anytime I can get a chance to just show expression and personality. So watching Armani and Derek, Mugler, Garcon back in the day, even down to like Akia. Yeah, you know, so it was a lot of people just watching them in the club, Andre even, they're just being free and gay, just dance, you know, because to me, it was another form of dance, something that was unknown to me. So I just knew like that was it for me. That was what I wanted to do.
But in addition to your, you know, walking Vogue Fam, and not just walking the category, but I mean, destroying the category. I mean, obviously you have earned your stripes in that category. But I don't know if people know these younger kids, because these young kids come on the scene now and they don't respect the people that have come along before them. They don't even really know the history. But I don't think people know outside of Atlanta, or maybe outside of some of the, you know, people that are like closer to you, that you're what we consider all around butch queen. I mean, you have destroyed All American. Best dress, obviously, everybody knows you have destroyed that category. But what are some of the other categories that you walk that people might not know about?
I've walked foot and eyewear. I've also walked streetwear, and then I've walked sex siren one time.
You've earned your stripes, I think, in Vogue Fam, but do you ever feel like, you know, you want to hit that floor and tackle that again, or do you think you've conquered all you can conquer in that space?
To me, it's just got to be the right category. I'm 37 years old, so I'm not moving and shaking as free as these like 20 and 22-year-old legends that they have now. You just got to know, like, if the category is written correctly and it speaks to me, then I'll do it.
You think
But
you can
just
still
going to a
tussle with
bottle,
young girls?
yeah, of course, because you got to think about it. You look at every category in eras. So there's a different performance quality for the legends that were before me. There are a different performance quality for the legends that are in my era. And then these new girls have a different performance quality. And I think that, judges from ballroom perspective, they keep it pretty broad. They're fair in, if you're staying true to the excitement or the entertainment for the category, you'll still get your just due, So
Right.
Yeah, these new girls, they can do all their acrobatics and everything, but if you are someone who can tell the story, maintain your elements, keep up your pace, and really captivate the audience like you used to in your day, then you still can get grace.
Now I remember at Trax when the category, the Vogue Fam was the first time it was for $5,000. I think it was Jasmine Couture who sponsored that, and of course you competed in that category at the time. One of the first to battle for $5,000, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it came down to you and Deshaun, right?
Correct.
At the time was Deshaun Ibisu, and I think Deshaun went on to win. Am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I mean, that was one of the first times where Vogue Fem, in my opinion, was really like on the map. It was like that category, because until then you had never had anybody giving that much prize money away to the grand prize. And of course, you were the hometown favorite, being in Atlanta. It was kind of expected that you would win on that night. And I think a lot of people felt like when you didn't win, that it was somehow shade or whatever. But is that something that sticks with you all these years later, that you didn't win that night? And how stinging of a loss was that for you?
Anytime you lose something of a significant amount of money, you're kind of like down a little bit, but you can't win them all, you know what I mean? So there's no burden or anything that I carry about losing to Deshaun. Shout out to Deshaun, he did an amazing job during the battle. If anybody watches that clip, I'm asthmatic. So after we've had so many battles, and then he and I are battling, they want us to battle again after that. It's just, I couldn't do it. I couldn't put anything more into the battle. So the person who deserved to won, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is a competitive sport. So you have to show up or you don't win,
Right.
And at that time, he put forth the best effort. So,
but I imagine, though, at that time, that had to be disappointing for you, because you were really putting on your best for the hometown crowd. And, so I just assume, or I imagine, not winning or being victorious that night had to be disappointing. But as you said, you picked yourself up and you were able to move on and continue to do many, many, great things, even despite that loss. Would that be an accurate way to describe it?
It is, but just from my mentality, the way I compete in any ball, I don't really expect the win. It's about living in the moment. If that moment turns into a win for the night, then yes, congratulations to me. But one of the things that I've instilled in my kids, my personal kids in ballroom, also my house kids for the House of Tisci that we're raising up, that are all kind of like green to ballroom, don't look at the win as being the goal. The goal is making people know that you are valuable to your category and that you're an asset. So if you don't expect to win, you're not really as so much as disappointed in winning and not winning, So like I said, everybody wants to win. And it was like a lot of pressure on that night, but it's kind of accurate that, you're disappointed for the moment, but in order to compete in ballroom, you got to be able to dust yourself off and come back for the next time.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in what you just said, and that lets me know that you've grown a lot, because a lot of these younger people come into the scene, and unfortunately, if they don't have the right ball parents to teach them, they go into competition thinking that it's the win that justifies them and makes them valued as a competitor and a ballroom participant. But in my opinion, just like you, I don't think it's necessarily the win all the time. I mean, the win is important, and if you don't win, you lose. Nobody wants to lose, but just as important as the win is the statement that you make in your competition. And if you come out there and destroy it and still lose, it doesn't take away anything that you brought to the competition in that battle. You know what I mean? In fact, I think sometimes you could lose and people walk away thinking, you know, you really deserve to win that one. You know, you
And
should.
I think that's a bigger statement too, because it's a lot of balls. Even if you go through a lot of the moments you've captured from your earlier days of recording the DVDs, you'll look at a category and forget who won because there was so much hype about the person who was shaded in some people's
Yes,
eyes, or the person who was in the final battle that people felt was supposed to win.
right.
So a lot of times the people walk away with the trophy or the money, but not the memory, you know?
Yeah.
So
And
that's kind
sometimes
of
those
like,
people who walk away with the win, with the trophy and the money, they know they didn't deserve it. But you know, who's going to turn the money and the trophy back in? They're going to keep it.
nobody.
And we've all had those moments where we've been shaded. I mean, I know I have, where you walk the category, you know you should have won it, or at least got tens, and maybe that didn't happen, and you walk away like, what the hell? What just happened? You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of people, and I think any and everybody that walks balls know it's a written rule. There are balls that we win that we should not win.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then there are balls that you lose, and you know you should have won. So it's just, you know, it's that karma, you know, it puts it
Yeah.
out in the air, and you know, ballroom has a way of paying you back. You know, you're just
Yeah.
like, okay.
So let's talk about your years as a Milan. I think most people know you more as Vito Milan than Vito Tisci. Would you agree with that?
I agree, because Tisci is still fairly new, you know, so I spent over a decade helping build and maintain the legacy for Milan. So I would say that's accurate.
Is that still a sensitive topic for you, the way it came to an end after spending so many years in the House of Milan?
No, it's like a relationship. You know, when you're in a relationship and that relationship becomes toxic in a sense, you know, long before you guys finally call it quits, you kind of know that this road is coming to an end. So, once we birthed Tisci, it was like, you know, all things for Milan was washed away. We left it in the hands of those that are now in control, and it's not really a bitter topic for me.
Right. What was that process like, though? I mean, because I think for a lot of us who are on the outside and don't know the inner workings of the family, it came as a shock to a lot of people. But how difficult of a decision was it for you and even the other folks that decided, you know, it's time for us to move in a different direction. We want to do a new thing. I mean, I imagine that wasn't something that you came up with overnight. It had to be a long process.
I mean, you know, Tisci was founded with legendary Pampers, ex Milan, and legendary Gunner, ex Milan. And once, you know, I don't want to open that can of worms again, because again, it was something that could have been handled totally different that led to the division and the end of that era of what people knew for Milan. It's just, once you're fed up, and anybody who knows me know, you know, I'm a very patient person. A lot of people look at me as being very rambunctious and having an anger issue and things, but I'm a very patient person. You know, I'm passionate about the things that I believe in, but for me, when I'm done, I'm done. So when the decision came, originally I was going to be done with Ballroom, but I felt like I still had more to offer Ballroom. And whether it was on the floor or not, I think that Ballroom deserved to see the vision that me, Pampers, and Gunner all had within our resources.
Right.
So
were you thinking of being done because of the toxic nature of that situation, or did you feel like you had just did all you could do in the scene at that point?
no, it wasn't about the scene in itself. It was when I came home, that was during that time that this all festered and came to a head. So I was freshly home from a vacation. I didn't really have the energy to spend on Ballroom. I was needing to get myself together,
Right.
center some things in my life, and make sure that Vito personally had something to give extracurricularly to Ballroom.
Right.
So when all of that originally happened, it was like, child, I'm fed up with this. Like, I really don't have enough stomach for that. But then that little devil on my shoulder was like, no, bitch, you got some more make you know it in you. So you need to keep it going. So that's how it ended up going into the furthering stage with Birth into Tisci.
So let's move on then. I don't want to beat a dead horse. I mean, that's a past chapter. Then you walk into this new chapter of Tisci. How did that come about? I mean, I think you've talked about this before. I don't know. I've never heard you talk about this, but
it's okay. We can repeat it. It's okay. It's with you. So whatever you want.
I'm just curious, like, how did that all develop? I mean, what was the driving force behind it? Like, you know how when you're sitting down and you're putting a vision together for dinner, maybe, you know how you want to prepare a meal and what spices you want to add and how you want to bring it all together. How did you all cook up the brand, the House of Tisci?
So when we were on these different, because again, we're friends outside of Ballroom. So when we were going through this ordeal after we had all announced separately that we were leaving and that whole domino effect kind of went down, we were having a conversation one day, and so many different houses were reaching out to Jason, Gunnar, and myself, you know, with different things, you know, different options, and wanted to explore just collaborating different things. You know?
Let me stop you there because that's important. So you guys left Milan not with the intention or even knowing what was next in terms of what house. It wasn't like
we just were done.
Okay,
we were done.
Because I think
it was not like
that you guys cooked this idea up while still there and then left to form. But you left to center self, and then that idea was born.
Yeah, the toxicity had gotten out of control in the previous establishment. So what you guys witnessed on the Facebook of different people announcing the leaving and things like that, it was just that boiling point where everybody was just pretty much fed up. No, there was no premeditated ideas of forming a house, or no, there was no premeditated
ideas
of stealing members.
It was an organic kind of birth of this house, basically.
It was. It definitely was.
I find very fascinating the fact that you all can come together without even knowing that this was the road you were going to be on, and then boom, it happens.
Yeah, that's fascinating. You know, it just centered around the fact, basically, of knowing that we are some very strong personalities, and I think that was one of the things that worked for Milan, but it was also a curse for Milan. Milan was composed of a lot of resourceful and very independent personalities that were strong. You know, God bless the dead, Tony Milan was a very strong personality.
You know, I was just thinking, I wonder if that split would have ever happened if people like Tony and Hickeby were still around. Do you think that would have happened if they were here?
It's hard to say, you know, because it's just with different changes comes that uncomfortable growth. So who's to say, you know, it could have been something else that led to something else down the road. But I do not feel that the situation that caused all of this would have happened if Tony was here, because Tony was very, a little more level-headed when it came to thinking about things or thinking things through, because regardless, and you know, anybody knows, Tony and I didn't have the best relationship, but it worked because I knew at the end of the day, Tony had his best interest for the house, and he knew that I had my best interest for the house. So we could always meet on a common ground, and I think that is important in leadership.
But you guys have you ever talked publicly about the situation? Because you've referenced that a couple of times.
I didn't. I never spoke on it publicly because I didn't feel like it was something worth speaking on.
Are you ready to break that silence today?
No, because it's not important, and then people involved are not important. You know, and furthermore, you know, D'Anthony is my friend still to this day. You know, we're still very cool, calm, collected. We go out, we have a good time when we see each other. You know, we're not best of friends, but we're still in a great place as we were before all of this, because we were present. So we know how everything went down, and nothing had malicious intent. So all the rhetoric behind me trying to extort people and all of this type of stuff, like that was, you know, like that was ludicrous. Like I can't extort somebody who has less than me. You know, it's like, girl, like really? You know, so it was just like people wanted to paint a narrative. And I think that's why organically we were able to move into a different direction and be successful in what we were doing, because everybody involved knew the gravity of everything, you know.
Right.
All cards were placed on the table. It is what it was, and it didn't have to blow up to be something more than what it was, you know.
Let's talk about the new thing, because I do want to hear, you know, you guys are kind of sitting around, you, Pampers, Rico, and then this idea is born about this new house, and then you put it together. Did you ever think that it would take off the way it has?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that it would be successful. Honestly, we did not think that it would been received as well as it was. But I mean, you got to think about it. You know, I was the father of Milan before we passed it over to, before Pampers was inducted as father. And then Gunnar was on his way to being a father. But, you know, and that was one of the beautiful things in Milan. It did not take a position for leaders to be bred. You know, a leader is going to stand out. So you had 3 different leaders with 3 different ideas, but had a level of respect that we could work together to accomplish a common goal.
Yeah, I think that's another fatal mistake that a lot of people in ballroom make, is they feel like they have to have a title in order to be a leader. And even some of these people with titles are not fit to lead, in my opinion. So that's a very good point. Vito, you have really grown up. I mean, I'm really I'm liking this more, you know, this wiser adult Vito. This is really nice. It says a lot. It says that you learned from your experience in life, and that you have really, you know, grown up to be a nice, respectable young man, which is what we all aspire to. You take your experiences from life and you put them all together, and hopefully it helps propel you to be the best you can be. You know what I mean? So I want to transition to something that you referenced, your vacation, because you've had some bumps in the road. And this is the part of the interview that I think is most beneficial to people, because you are a person who has experienced some low points in your life, but you didn't stay in those low points. You were able to take that, use it to uplift yourself. Do you, I mean, and I don't know how deep you want to go into that, but what was that point in your life like, where you found yourself confined, you know, your freedom taken away, and, you know, having to face consequences of some decisions that you made?
You know, if you are a person who's analytical, and I'm very analytical, you know, so when you are doing things and living in these streets and really not worried about the longevity of some of these decisions, because I was exposed to a lot of money at a very young age, you know, and that could be one of those things that keep you unbalanced in decisions, because that could lead to greed and a whole lot of other things that just, you know, make you overlook some of the more important things, you know, even down to people. People become disposable to you because you feel like, hey, everything can be replaced, you know, and that was that mindset. So, you know, being confined, or multiple times of being confined, you know, the longer that they hold you, the longer you have to think. You know, a lot of these people who do things and they get right out of jail, you don't really think about that because there was no consequence. So it takes the removal of your freedom and having to have someone dictate how you spend the entire day from when you wake up and go to sleep, or the absence of being around for the birth of family members, the deaths of family members, the graduations, and just different life achievements for your friends or families that really set on your soul, you know, because you think about, damn, if I would have made this decision, I could have been a part of all of that.
Yeah, yeah. Was it harder for you, being a person who grew up in a stable environment? You know, you talked about being a drum major at your high school, so obviously you had some structure that, you know, you were exposed to the right thing to do. So you find yourself in a position where your freedom is taken away. Was it harder because you knew kind of the road you should have been on, and you saw it, but then you still, you know, somehow ended up over here? Did that play a part of the psyche of, you know, facing that consequence?
It did. It dramatically did. And I think that was what kind of led to me. Well, not, I think, I know that's what kind of led with me changing my life around and doing a whole 180, because I realized that these actions and negative effects didn't just affect me. This was affecting my mom, and then it started affecting my son. So it's like, you know, you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. You know, you can't climb a tree differently and don't think that you won't fall, you know? So it's like, okay, you really have to center yourself and realize that nothing really, you never get away with everything that you do, you know? It's one of those situations, because even years from now, things can catch up to you. So it's just like, I knew I should have been doing differently. And with the education that I had, I knew I was supposed to be doing something different. So, you know, that was another thing. It was like I was disappointed in myself because I let money kind of like rule conscious decisions that I knew were wrong to make.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's a very beautiful thing to come to the realization, you know, because that's like, again, a full circle moment when you realize that and you're able to see that clearly, and then you can make smart decisions to take yourself in a different direction. So congratulations to you because, you know, it's not easy. And what is easy, though, is to look down on people and make judgments, especially when you don't even know their life. All you know is
Right.
what is a person, you know, going to jail, getting in trouble, but you have no idea what the backstory is. So it's easy to just kind of look down your nose and point at people who make mistakes while you're walking on this, you know, supposedly gold-plated street that you ain't never did nothing wrong. You know, like you've never.
That's bullshit.
You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's very heartwarming to hear, and I'm personally glad to see the success. I don't tell you
Thank
that
you.
we don't talk that often, but you know, I see you post things on Facebook, and I think to myself, wow, you know, he got it this time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it brings a smile to my face. And look at you now, you know, doing wonderful, great career, you know, living in a wonderful place, and, you know, able to live life with the benefit of having made some pitfalls, and now you know what to avoid in the future. So
Right.
for me, I mean, I think that's a win-win. I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels about that. You talked
I
about.
do too. You know, I really think that, you know, God has a way of making it work. You know, we just have to be faithful, and we have to actually do some work. You know, we can't expect everything to happen overnight. But like you said, you know, I was blessed to have that conversation with God, remove some of those things from my life and just focus on the things that were important, and, you know, use the things that I know and I have a solid work ethic. So, you know, I was able to go into a career that has been very lucrative for me, and I'm appreciative of that, you know. And it's not something I would have ever thought I would have done, but I'm here, and it's
You know what's interesting though, Vito, is, and this is one thing I learned about ballroom, and I'm glad that I never fell into this trap, because when I started in ballroom in 2003, I was, you know, an adult at that point. I had already graduated from college. So I had a bit of I guess a little bit more of a foundation to me. So I never let those traps get me. You know, I never let them entrap me in that way. But for some people who come to Atlanta in particular, who, you know, they just moved from Bubblegum, Alabama, they ain't never been exposed to anything. All of a sudden you find yourself in Atlanta, of all places, where, you know, you got to keep up with the Joneses because everybody is rocking the latest or driving the latest or, you know, living in the best. And they don't understand what they are doing or had to do to get those things. And so you, in your mind, you're thinking, oh my God, I got to be accepted. So I got to go out here and hustle it up and get what they got so I can halfway be on their level. When really, you know, that's not what you have to do. But you don't know that if you've never been, you know what I'm saying, again, if you just arrived on the megabus and you just kind of immersed.
You don't really know what the life entails.
Exactly.
It's really easy to get caught up.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I'm just thankful, you know, only by the grace of God, you know, it didn't happen to me, but it could have been, you know what I'm saying? That's why I never try to look at people differently, because I just happen to end up on a different road. Because the tables can turn, you know, it's just a matter of grace again.
Right.
You mentioned your son, and I don't know if people know, but you you have an adopted son, handsome young man who obviously you love dearly. How in the world, what is that like being a father to a young man, especially? How's that?
It takes a lot of patience, but it's been a really rewarding situation because having my son has grounded me, like I said before, as a young man running these streets and just learning and living an alternative lifestyle, I didn't have any obligations or anything. So having this obligation now teaches me to always think about someone other than myself. It's my center point, it's my focal point, because I know that I have to do better so that he could have better. I came from a single parent home because my father was murdered when I was 10. But my mom did what she needed to do, and she worked 2 and 3 jobs and made sure that my sisters and I, my brothers and I, had what we needed. She never made us feel like we didn't deserve, or if she said no, we know she really didn't have it to give at the time, So I just wanted to make sure that my son was able to grow up with a life very similar to that. And because I did not grow up fully with a mother and a father in a home, I wanted him to know what that experience was like. And it has paid off because, he's been centered and he's grounded. He's very smart. He's very wise beyond his years because, his mother is a handful. I'm a handful, but we don't baby him. We treat him as a child should be, living in a world where they can be awake and know what's going on and be able to make solid decisions based on life experiences and not be like sheltered and really don't know what's going on in the world.
Well, shout out to Hurley, because I know Mom from way, way back. And let me just say, y'all keep the boy laced, Vito. Now let's just keep it real. Because every time I see him on Facebook,
what do you think?
The latest Jordans or the latest something, say y'all, you keep him grounded, but you keep him laced too now, okay?
Yeah. But he's not spoiled. Let's get that straight. He knows that he has to make the grades and he has to do his chores. And then even he's a business minded, he's been making little jewelry and selling art to different people. And now he's even gotten to this thing where he knows how to bake. So he wants to bake things to make little money. So, he has the entrepreneur spirit, he has the father of a hustler. So, I don't think Ballroom kind of views me as a person that kind of like fell off, you know what I mean? Because even once I stopped walking performance and was in American Runway, and then I went from American Runway to Best Dressed, there wasn't really like a point where it was no Vito, So I would just say that there's been a lot of consistency with me. And I feel like Ballroom has seen my growth, especially from some of the older people in Ballroom. The newer generation, I just think their perception of Ballroom is a little bit different from our perception of Ballroom because of how it's introduced. When we were experiencing Ballroom, we were brought in by a friend who taught us this and it taught us the who's who. So we had respect for certain people who were our elders and paved the way. And this newer generation, there's abundance of kiki balls and mini balls and different avenues where just like Joe from Louisiana can move to New York and just start participating in Ballroom, become a name because of his talent, and really don't know anything else outside of
They don't know, they don't know or appreciate. They don't know, the struggle, the road that other people have paid. Because you do have to. I'm a firm believer. You have to give homage to people that came before you, because none of us were just dropped here and became who we are just because we're somehow so special. People came before we did, and we have to show respect to those people. That's one of the things about Ballroom that really bothers me, is that there just is not a level of respect for the people that came beforehand. I just don't understand.
I agree, but I think that's a double-edged sword too, because I think that a lot of the elders in Ballroom, I think that, there has to be a tone down of the expectancy of people to know and feeling shaded if someone doesn't. If I walk up to someone and they say, "Oh, who are you?" I don't feel shaded because someone may not know who I am. And I feel like a lot of the elders older than me, they kind of feel like, "Oh, you should know who I am. I'm such and such from the Elks Lodge or, you know, those days. And it's given, well, you know, this child was born in the 90s, you know, they don't really, for real, they're not paying attention to Tom Blumenthal DVDs. If it's not on Ballroom Throwbacks YouTube, there's no exposure to that.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I think that's one of the things that we as adults have to realize too. So yeah, the respect has to be there, but I think the visibility is also important. Not that you're actually walking, but your commitment to the community should be in a way that people are going to pay you respect. You know, not just by, oh, I'm throwing a ball, but like, you know, you're doing something, or you're moving with your house, or participating with the newer members in your house, or when the community is doing good things, you're out in the midst so that these people could see and know who you are.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let me shift gears quickly, because our time is coming to a close and I know you have to go. But you know, we all know ballroom is, you know, there are scandals that happen in ballroom. I think that's what makes ballroom exciting. You know,
Right.
it can't be without a scandal. But you, Vito, and I've always considered you kind of the Prince of Atlanta, you know, because you came out when you were so young. But I don't remember you really getting caught up in too many scandals. How did you, now correct me if I'm wrong, if you want to tell us some scandals, I'll listen.
I am innocent, as just Taylor.
But how did you remain mostly scandal-free throughout your, you know, longevity in the scene? Or did you
Contrary to
do a good
popular
job of
belief,
hiding it? Is that what it was?
no. I mean, the only like scandal I would have been in was one of my older relationships, but and that would be pretty much the only thing I would label as a scandal. But I just really, you know, I'm a no nonsense type of person. So I think people have learned to deal with me as I deal with them. There's never really been a lot of underhanded things, and I don't do underhanded things to people. So it's like, you know, where we meet with respect, you don't have to put yourself in a scandal. So I think that would be it. Cause you know, I was known, my reputation precedes me. So it's like, you know, I'm too high-headed for people to come at me any kind of way.
Yeah, you were just about to take the words out of my mouth, because while you remain scandal-free, you know, everybody in Atlanta knows and knew at the time that you didn't mind boxing with people.
That is so horrible. But I mean, I'm just really big on respect. You know, I respect everybody, regardless of who you are, where you come from, how you dress, what are you into extracurricular. You know, I've learned to not be judgmental at all. And you just, you know, if you meet people with respect, you don't have to always agree with it, but as long as you can respect it, that's that common ground where you can coexist with people and just be okay. When people overstep them boundaries, things go left real quick, you know, and that's just how I've always been.
Now, I do remember an almost scandal that happened with you and I, where we actually almost ended up in an entanglement. But,
oh, God.
But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to move on from that. But just know I didn't forget about that, Vito.
I remember.
Anyway, so let me close this interview out. I do want to ask, and if I didn't ask, I think I would be doing a disservice, but I want to just ask about the commercialization of ballroom. I mean, we see it was bound to happen, but ballroom is mainstream now, officially. What do you think that means for the regular folks in ballroom who never get an opportunity to be on Legendary or Pose? You know, is it hurting the ballroom for this mainstream effect to be happening right now?
I don't think so. I think where the doors have begun to open, the more they open, the more diverse the concepts will become, because people are right now rolling out conceptual ideas as they thought them up in their heads. But as they see the reactions to mainstream or from ballroom or Kiki Sing, they'll begin to adjust. And with that adjustment, I think it'll be inclusive for everybody. You know, I think at some point they're going to realize that it can't just be the stars that people see. There has to be room for the newbies or those up and coming people who can bring that same flair of ballroom to commercialized television, because there's a wide range of talent across the board for all categories across the nation, and now even nationwide. You know, overseas has a lot of untapped talent that is now becoming abreast of ballroom, and they're doing things and they're really making a name for themselves. So I think that the more it becomes mainstream, the wider the level will become of who's included in the castings and exposure.
Give me some picks. I don't know, your top 1 or 2 people right now, currently, not in your house. Who makes you know it from the back of the runway?
Not in my house, and they make me know it every time they hit the runway. I am a fan of Michi Lanvin for Best Dress. You know, Michi has been a fierce competitor for Best Dress. He knows the taste, he knows the quality level. So I would say he's one for sure. I do love Michaela Lanvin also. She's a performance drags. She's one of my favorites as well right now. And I think the House of West overall are doing a really good job. They're a new house as well. And they've kind of kicked open the door.
Yes, I have to say the House of West, I do like their, how can I say, like the kind of the, when they're at a ball, you know they're at a ball.
I agree.
I like the, you know, they're loud, they are, you know, in your face, and they bring it for every category. Now, what I don't like about the House of West is they can be somewhat violent. I don't like that part of it. But I do like...
You know, I have no problems there. You know, but no, I think, you know, a lot of people have a problem with aggression.
Yes.
And I do not. I don't have a problem with aggression.
I don't have a problem with aggression either until it becomes physical. That's when I have a problem. But again, not taking away from anything from the House of West, because I like their, I mean, even to their coordination. When you see them, they're always coordinated. Yeah. They always look.
It's a great look. You know, shout out to James in Africa. They really put together a really nice organization.
You can tell they put thought into it. Like they plan it out beforehand. You know what I mean?
But that's why I think it was essential to have a lot of new leaders that start something new. Yes. You know, they didn't, you know, become the overall parents of an existing organization and work within boundaries. You know, this is ours. Let's start something new and fresh and give ballroom our spin on what we feel ballroom should be in 2020, you know, or 2019, or whenever a house starts and puts a new mark or a new spin, you know, and I applaud that. I'm all for it.
Okay, this might be the final question, but you told us who makes you know it from the back. Who is chopped from the back? Who do you not want to see on that floor?
I mean, I don't not see it for anybody. You know, I go to a ball open-minded because at one ball, somebody might not have turned it for you because the category may not have been for them.
No, Vito.
And the next ball that can come. What?
And you know, we all got our favorites and we all got that one. I don't care what they bring. You just, oh my God, here she comes. You know, it's just never.
I don't know. I don't really look at people like that. It's kind of unfair as a judge to be like that. You know, for real, because think about it. There are a lot of different categories written a lot of different ways. So again, like I said, you know, there's somebody who essentially may not have faith, but the category may be written in a way that they have faith. So when they come down that night, they can make you know it. So I never go into it with that mind like, oh, here she comes again, you know.
No, that doesn't mean you won't be fair to them when you're judging, but it just means that they're just not one of your one of your favorites. Like, you don't want to, like, oh my God, I gotta sit through this, you know, really. But okay, I'll let you off the hot seat. You don't want to tell us the name.
See, Tom, you're being messy. But no, I mean, there really isn't. But you know, questions like that will get you in trouble, because if you shade someone's house member, your kids take effect on that. And I got a lot of kids that I cannot risk the fact that somebody is doing something maliciously to them because, as you said, I'm aggressive.
See, you know, I don't sit on panel, so I can tell you who I don't want to see on the runway. But,
well, who you don't see it for?
Well, that's the thing. You know, these new kids, I don't even know them, so I can't.
Well, the old kids, who you didn't see it for, that everybody gave it up for, who you hated to see coming. Let's turn the camera around. Who you don't see? Who's your favorite too, and who you don't
here's the
see
thing.
it for?
So because I'm asking the questions, I don't have to answer them. So
Oh, see, here we go. Journalism 101. See, the spin. I got you.
Vito Tisci, this has been the highlight of my time in media doing ballroom interviews and DVDs. I really, really appreciate this. I mean, I started a long time ago doing ballroom DVDs, and I stopped.
ServeTheKids.com.
Yes, ServeTheKids.com, now defunct, but because I don't do ballroom DVDs anymore, but because I left the scene, but I decided I went to.
I think you need to put the website back up. I'm sure there are people that would love to see those DVDs.
I get asked about that a lot, and I've had a lot of people offer to buy them, and people contact me periodically asking me to make them a DVD, and I just always say no, because one thing, I just don't have the time to do it, and it takes a lot of time to do.
It sounds like you need an assistant that can do it.
Yeah, maybe I do need to hire an assistant, but at some point I may get to a place where I start to put some of those DVDs online, at least to let people look back through history and see what the ballroom scene used to be and how we got where we are today. I do think that's important.
I think that would be important. You are a historian for the period of time, so those things need to be uploaded like yesterday.
Yeah, I do want to thank you again. I mean, from Ball DVDs, and you're featured on many of my DVDs, to Blog Talk Radio, to now doing this, this new medium that I'm tackling. One of the things I wanted to do was, kind of walk people down memory lane and let them see from then to now. And you've been able to help us to see that. So I really want to thank you so much for, participating in my inaugural week of interviews with the heavy hitters of ballroom. And I just can't thank you enough, Vito.
I appreciate you for having me, and I wish you nothing but the best with this new media that you're presenting to us.